Hello, everybody. This is Mike and Rainbow, and this is our Halloween special. We decided to do this year, and hopefully we'll do it for many more years in the future. And so we're going to start off. We have a series of segments, we'll call it. We're going to talk about various subjects. Some of them are scary. Some of them relate directly, kind of a Halloween theme to them. And most of them have to do with our own personal experiences. Some of them are family member experiences, and other ones are friends, but in all cases, very credible witnesses to these events. And I hope we hope you enjoy some of them. We hope you enjoy them all.
Yeah.
And of course, if you have any questions, you can send us an email, and we'll give you that information at the end of the video. So anyways, we're going to start this off. Rainbow is going to talk about being a haunted child. And she's also going to talk about raising her daughter, who is also a haunted child. So Rainbow, take it away.
All righty. Well, happy Halloween, everybody. We hope that you enjoy it as much as we do. I decorate the first part of September.
Oh, yeah, usually July 1st, usually, and then
no, I don't.
and then we start off about what, maybe
well, if you're going to put it out, you want to keep it out there long enough.
We put the Christmas stuff, mixing it with the Halloween.
Yeah, no, we don't. No.
Something
So,
like
but what I wanted to, well, we both had talked about what we were going to start off with, and so Michael's kind of directing everything. So
I'm the director, yeah.
He's the director, yes. And with the haunted child topic, I think there's a lot of you out there who probably, when you were children, had seen spirits, you had heard noises in your closet, you heard somebody tapping outside your window, or you would go down a hallway or go into another room and you would see, an apparition, or you would see something or someone that looked so real that you're like, you didn't even think twice about it. You went, oh, that's just, maybe mom and dad have somebody here. I don't know. And then your parents walk in the room and you're asking who that person is, and then they're like, there's nobody there. And so I think one of the reasons why we decided to talk about this is because it's very sad when children aren't heard. And I think that when you're a child that's not heard, what happens is that you grow up thinking, well, I'm not going to talk about this because nobody's going to believe me. And if you talk about it when you're a child to your parents, they do the rational thing, which is to say, oh, honey, you just, that was a nightmare, or you have an active imagination. And I don't know any child that is going to actively imagine, and I'm not saying there's not children who don't do this, but would actively imagine something scary in the room with them. When I saw scary stuff in the room with me, I wouldn't have wanted to have done that to myself.
Right,
there's no child that wants to do that, to scare themselves. Or if I heard something in the closet, I didn't want to create that. It wasn't my imagination. There was actually something in there. And so I think that children who are haunted just actually are a little bit time traveler, a little bit dimensional walkers. They can see the ethereal world because they haven't learned not to see it, because as we get older, we block it.
Yeah, and they're very, very open. They have none of those biases that adults have or get to learn as they grow up. One little side note, when I was doing a lot of my abduction research and counseling with people, a lot of times they would talk about their children. Their small children would be seeing different things, maybe ghosts, but little creatures, tiny little kids or little beings of some sort. And they always ask me, what should I tell them? I says, embrace it. Basically, tell them they're friends or whatever. And for the most part, they don't seem to want to create any harm. So it's really important to be open with your children and don't discourage it, because I think you just close some really important doors for the rest of their lives. So
I think in high school, it gets closed, because I remember being in high school. I remember my daughter being in high school. And if you're dealing with other teenagers whose parents kind of poo-pooed the idea of anything of the supernatural happening,
Right.
they're going to close off anyways. And I know I did, because if I said to a friend, do you see ghosts? They're going to look at me like I'm nuts. And at that point, you're learning how to be a person. You're learning how to gain your foundation. You're looking for support. You're building up your confidence. And you don't want to do anything to put that in jeopardy. So we already, as teenagers, have it difficult. So what I did with my daughter, because I knew that when I was in high school that I didn't talk about the supernatural stuff that happened to me, I told her that it was normal, it was natural, and if people said it wasn't true or that it didn't happen, that they're full of baloney. I said, because it does happen, and there's people around the world who see spirits and see ghosts, and it's normal in certain cultures. I mean, that's why I love the Egyptians so much. It was all about the dead and the getting prepared for death and the living your life, but they embraced other aspects of life, which is death. And they also embraced the fact that there were spirits and there were deities and there were different aspects of the ethereal world where they incorporated into their everyday living. I love Day of the Dead. I love the fact that families embrace and actually pay tribute to loved ones who've passed on. I think it keeps everything alive. And I think it's not just the memory and the heart, but I think it's also important to teach our children that just because a loved one has passed on or because they see spirits, that it's not something that isn't normal. And as a haunted child myself, and my daughter being one, and I think your girls, I think your girls to a certain extent saw things too,
Mm-hmm.
and that it's something that we should embrace. And for some reason in society at this point, and I'm not going to generalize because I think there's people like us who actually, they embrace it and they don't tell their children that it's nonsense. But I think at this point, a lot of society has to understand that once we push away our past, which is integrating, the ceremonies for the people who have died, that we forget and lose ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so as a haunted child, just if you're blessed with having a haunted child, I think that's fantastic and wonderful. Because if they're taught it's normal, you're going to really have an amazing human being. My daughter's fantastic. She gets things. She's extremely empathic, and I can have amazing conversations with her, and it's fantastic.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And some of my children have seen things. In fact, we're going to talk about one here shortly. But yes, they have, when they were growing up, they did have some experiences with different entities, etc. Balls of light, things in the closet, aliens, alien type encounters they've had throughout their life. So I think it's very common. It's much more common than people realize.
Perfect word. Yes, it's common.
It's common.
Yeah.
It's very common. So, okay. So let's talk about shifting gears a little bit, I guess. But it is also experiencing this particular one I'm going to tell you about is from one of my daughters, my second youngest daughter. So anyways, this happened in Tucson, Arizona. And my daughter was out driving around with her boyfriend. She was probably in her late teens, and they were driving south of Tucson. And he had a truck, an old kind of beat her up truck, if I remember correctly. And they were driving along, they came up to a stop sign and they stopped. And I guess at the time they thought it was a jogger or something, came walking, wasn't jogging, but was walking. You could see, she could see him coming or her coming or whatever it was, coming next to the car. And it just walked past them right through the stop sign and just kept on going. I mean, it was a country road, so there wasn't much traffic at all. So anyways, they went ahead and they passed this person on the road, and then suddenly they got their speed up. They thought they were going maybe 30, 35 miles an hour, and suddenly this person / we're going to call it thing because we're not 100% sure what it was, actually past them running. Now we know there's no humans that can run 35 miles an hour. Impossible. Okay, so this was the big startling point of what the deal was. So the entity actually passed them a little bit, and then it stopped and started walking again, and then they passed it again, and now they're really getting kind of suspicious because it had long gray hair. They could see some of it, but there was something not quite right at this point. So they passed it, and then it again came by, but this time it was right next to them. It kept on a pace, probably 30, 35 miles an hour, and it just kept on looking. And suddenly, my daughter at this point had rolled the window down. I guess she had the window down all the time. So the window was down. So you got to get this picture. Here's the windows down. They're both in this truck going about 35 miles an hour. And this entity, or whatever you want to call it,
Dark shaman.
A dark shaman, a skinwalker, probably, right?
Skinwalker.
Came right up to them and is still looking straight forward. And suddenly it turns and glares at my daughter and just completely freaks my daughter completely out. It was horrific, I guess. Now, the driver, the boyfriend, he wasn't able to see as much because he was driving, and he wasn't next to the window that was open again. And here's this thing, this ugly looking face. I guess it was it was hard to tell. She says, I don't know if it was male, female, or what it was, but it was awful looking, very long, kind of long, straggly. This case looked kind of grayish, maybe a little black hair, and it just had this glaring look at them, kind of a slight smile, just a very slight,
of course, a
scary
smirk.
smile, a smirky smile, took a look, took off, and then suddenly they just saw it kind of blow to the right. That's the way she said it, blow to the right. She doesn't know why she said that, but it just kind of like disappeared to the right. And that was the end of it. But she said she'd never forget that the rest of her life.
Right.
And
she tries to forget.
She tries to forget it, right? If I bring it up, it's like, what are you talking
about, Dad?
Yeah. No. But then she'll admit, there was something. Let's not talk about it.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty traumatic to
extremely
to see a skinwalker, especially this is daylight. This is wide open, and there wasn't a lot of people around, granted. But, in Arizona and New Mexico and Utah, those areas, there's quite a few skinwalker sightings.
Right.
Or similar type sightings,
Yeah.
right, Rainbow. So anyway, so that was at one Tucson. Well, yeah, one Tucson, experience that one of my family members had. So what's up?
Oh, you have the pen.
Oh, okay. So anyways, okay, so let's that was Skinwalker, and we're going to talk about one a little bit later. So let's talk about now, Rainbow. Let's talk about we're going to talk about energy vampires.
Oh my God. Yeah. Did you want to go first?
Well, I don't think we're going to necessarily go first. I think a lot of this is going to be about kind of your real experience, because it was kind of, I think it was your energy. They were really, they were sucking your energy, but I would kind of lead up to the first one.
Right. Where were we on the first one? What area we're at? We were in
kind of downtown Portland.
Yeah.
We were in downtown Portland, and we were at a restaurant, and we were doing one of our interviews of a woman that has some really interesting stuff. We're not going to go into it now. But anyway,
out of respect for her identity, we're not going
right.
to say
We're not going to talk. We're not really going to talk about. But what happened during that interview around us was quite amazing. So, anyways, I'm going to let Rainbow continue from there, and I'll jump in.
Well, this is like just we've had two experiences, and so with this one, we were actually sitting outside in an area where it was this really pretty day, sunshine. And we went to go get some tea and coffee, and we were talking with this lovely lady. And it wasn't that far. I mean, I think we'd been sitting outside for 10 minutes before a man had come who was very unusual. And I as an empath, people walk around all the time, and it does, I don't really think much about it. But every once in a while, someone will walk by or come around you and you just sense them and you know it. And it's like it hits your solar plexus. And this guy hit my solar plexus. And I was like, okay, I need to pay attention. And then my ears do a Spock thing where they get pointy. And then I know that something, isn't quite right. I know it's strange, but that's just really, it's really true. So the guy is sitting at a table behind us or behind me, and he's got a laptop out and he's fidgeting, and I could feel the energy of him fidgeting. So I turned.
Can I just jump in real quick?
Go ahead.
I think, did you remember that he was actually off to our one side also? He moved, remember?
Well, he moved, but the first place that he was behind me.
Okay.
And when he first came, the first 10 minutes we were talking, and then he came behind me and sat down.
Okay.
And he was fidgeting. He had his laptop up, and his energy was so odd that I turned behind me and looked at him, and he was looking right at us. And he wasn't even hiding it. He was just,
No, he didn't.
No.
Right. That's for sure.
So he gets up and he goes and he sits at another table behind our friend who we were talking to. And he was kind of a little further to my right. Oh, actually, no, I take that back. He was behind you.
Right.
And he was about 2 tables behind Michael. And he had his laptop up. But I think it was just a ploy. I mean, I don't think he was really looking at anything on his laptop, but he was looking at us. And I was kind of concerned about it, because I didn't feel very good about his energy. And so we were talking, and I kind of just thought, well, I'm not going to think about it, but you couldn't miss his energy. It was almost like a force field coming at you, and you just kind of like a pulse. You could just feel it. And then he got up again. And the third time, well, the second time he got up and he sits down at a table just right behind Michael. And so that's the third table that he's sitting at, and he got close to us. And I'm like thinking, well, he can hear every word that we're saying.
Right.
And I think at this point, Michael said he could feel him. And I know our lady friend said she felt something and she wasn't sure, but she saw him.
Right.
And so what was happening was he was at the angle he was at, he was looking at me and he didn't stop.
Right.
And I think anybody would be uncomfortable with that. So anyways, I'm like looking at him and, giving him that stink eye look, like, what are you, what are you looking at? And so it didn't faze him at all. And my concern was he recording something? Because there's cameras on computers. I didn't know. I'm not paranoid. And I normally don't think this way, but this guy made me think this way.
Well, also, I think the other thing is, I don't know if you saw the angles, but he actually did have a cell phone too he was playing with.
Oh, well, that comes a little later.
Oh, okay.
So that's okay. I got up and because I had to go use the bathroom. So I walked past him and I gave him this look, and I was looking to see what he was looking at on his computer. And he did have it, it on, but he wasn't looking at anything in particular. And I thought, well, that's interesting. And he was, he was looking at me as I was walking away, and I'm like going, you're just a creepy dude. So anyways, I went to the bathroom, I came back, and I was kind of hoping he'd be gone, but he wasn't. He was still sitting there. I'm like, oh, he's sitting there. So I go and sit down, and I think it was like about another 5 to 10 minutes. He has his camera out and he's actually taking pictures of me, or he's videotaping me, to the point to where he's like this with his camera and he's not hiding it. And so I put my hand like this, and I kind of mentioned to Michael that's probably time for us to go, because I was just getting so uncomfortable.
Right.
And about a couple minutes before we left, he just got up and he walked away.
Right.
And then I asked Michael and our friend, did you see this person? And everybody did, and everybody kind of got a real creepy feeling from him. And so it was just a pulsing energy that I could just feel. And when he was closer to us, it was almost like I don't even know how to explain it. It was hurting a little bit. It just
yeah, I could feel it. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been in situations before, and I could feel it at the back of my head when he was sitting at a different angle. I'm saying?
Yeah.
There was different angles where it seemed like his ability to kind of suck energy like a vampire was that. So he was behind me, and I think he was looking towards Rainbow, and I think I was taking a hit from it. And it's you know it. I mean, at least I know it, because I've been a target of it before, and I know Rainbow has too. And I think this was really something quite strange and concerning, to be honest with you.
Yeah, my anxiety shot up, and it took
right.
about 3 hours afterwards for me to kind of get my energy back down, because I was so, it's almost like you're trying to create a force field around yourself, that bubble, so that nothing can come at you. And the thing about an energy vampire is that they know to take you when you're off guard. It's just like when I used to ride, when I would ride my horse War Bonnet, and I was training her because she was green, she'd always know when I would relax, and then she'd start bucking with me because she knew it. And it's just almost like that kind of thing when they catch you off guard, then that, and because I didn't have any idea that I'd have to be on my game, or put a bubble around me. And you should always put a bubble around you. We were talking to somebody who had very unusual experiences in her life, so I should have known better. And so this is, shame on me, because I should have been prepared. And it's just one of those things where I was just so excited to be able to talk with her, I didn't think about it.
Right.
And so, that's one experience. And then we had another one when we were, where is that one?
Yeah, let me jump in on that. Just get you started on that one. So we live in Oregon, and there's a road, it's called Cascadia Highway, which is 213. And so on the way south of us, there is a little gym and mineral type little shop.
Gem and mineral.
Yeah, like a metaphysical store. I guess they have some other things in there. Anyways, there was a guy behind the counter that I'm gonna let Rainbow go from here. Okay.
I think this was, definitely was an energy vampire, but he was more of a creepy kind of, how can I put it? He was definitely an energy vampire, but I think he had this illusion of being some kind of womanizer kind of guy. I think he just thought he was pretty hot, and that every woman walking into a store was probably going to be extremely attracted to him or something. He came on to me in front of Michael, which was shocking, because that's kind of that's not very smart. And I think that this guy just really was a little messed up in the head. But he had told me that, and in front of Michael too, which I found very strange, that I had, that he could help me because I had problems. And I don't know this man. And so I'm like, I know I'm not, brightest bulb out there, but I'm, not the dimmest either. So I was wondering, what the heck was this guy talking about? So he's telling me that he can help me, and that he helps a group of women who don't, it was almost like he was trying to tell me that because I was a woman, I had issues and I had a lot of problems, and that, women were frail and they were inferior, and that he had the tools and the ability to bring me out of my shell and to all this stuff. And I just kept telling him no, and this, I don't.
It became relatively so aggressive that eventually I had to step in between to kind of cut that energy, or whatever he was trying to suck or do, kind of interrupt it, basically, so that whole conversation would be shifted into something else, and I ended up changing the subject.
He wouldn't. He
was
kept
very
at
persistent.
it, even with Michael there.
He was. I was glad I was there, but he was a powerful kind of entity, or whatever he was.
I would have punched him if he wouldn't have been there.
I know you would have. I know you would have taken care of it. But the point was that you can tell he was another example of this type of vampiric energy that is out there, and you have to really be careful of it. And if you're not prepared for it, now we're kind of prepared for it. A lot of times we don't always.
I wasn't that.
Well, I know, and you're right. Sometimes you don't.
No, I know. You never know when. You never know when.
You never do. And if you go into certain circumstances where it's possible. Now, we probably should have been more on alert when we went for the interview with the woman. You're absolutely right, because of that, we have a certain energy. That woman had a certain energy, and the three of us. When you have three
empaths together, you should know better.
You should know better, because they're going to draw some stuff in. There's going to be these going to be some energy vampires. There's going to be some
Yeah.
other entities around trying to feed off of some of our energy. So that we should have been more prepared. I agree. This one, not so much, because we go to stores, we go to antique shops and all this stuff. And, typically it's pretty vanilla. There's really not too much
Right.
going on.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think the guy didn't drain me because Michael was there. Because when Michael stood between us, one thing that it was just that protection shield for me.
Right.
And Michael had everything, that he needed to like just block this man. And what was really interesting about him, I don't know if you remember the discussion that he had with us, but he had stated that, he has different women that he lives with, and that they're exhausted and tired and fatigued all the time. And he even admitted to draining them. He admitted he drains them. And I'm looking at him like, he's
Wow.
just totally nuts. And I'm like, well, we're not coming back here. So we left, and we did see him at a fair a couple months later, and I did an about face, and I walked the other way because I just don't want to, I don't need to meet up with somebody like that again. I mean, I've got enough little mini battles sometimes in my life that I don't mind fighting, but why even go into that with that person?
Right.
So just be aware that there's crazy people, and not, we haven't come across them a lot, but boy, when you do, you just have to know when to withdraw and kind of put a bubble around yourself, protect yourself, and just walk away, because you don't want them to drain you.
That's right. Okay, so the next one I'm going to talk about in this one, I think pretty much. This is the boom, the big boom. So, some of you are probably aware of this, probably over the most recent 5 to 6, 7 years, maybe. There's been these large booms around the country where people will be in their house, they hear this huge boom, they go outside, they think they're expecting to see something, nothing. It may shake the house, it's so loud.
Yeah.
It may do a lot of different things, but they can't find either. They may call the police, they may call the Air Force or whatever, see if there was a sonic boom or something like that. And typically they say, no, we don't know either. We had several reports, et cetera, et cetera. Well, this is happening more, it seems like more recently than it's ever happened before. And it's all around the country. There's really good stories, very similar. All of them are pretty similar, just what I told you. But so I had one myself. So this is a recent story. And what happened was Rainbow had gotten up and she getting ready to go to work, and she went to work. Actually, she got, she said goodbye and good luck and whatever. And so he kissed and she ran. But anyway, this was real. So I happened to have my earplugs in too. So I laid back in the bed, and I was going to try to sleep a little while longer because it was early in the morning. And all of a sudden, with my earplugs are really good. They really can,
block out the noise.
Block out almost everything. This thing, whatever it was this tremendous boom. It really, really was. It was frightening boom. So anyways, I got up. I kind of had to, get myself oriented properly. And so I went and I looked around all the windows. I didn't really see anything. So I got dressed because I really had this real fearful thing in my mind that Rainbow would be with one arm or something hanging off in the middle of.
He thought he got in an accident.
Got in a big accident right there behind her house, because it was a really strange noise, but it almost sounded like a car accident type thing. And so I got my clothes on, went in the back, and there was nothing. The other thing is, when I was thinking about this and going to tell, write down a few notes, I also didn't tell Rainbow this. It was quiet. When I went out there to look, it was extremely quiet for probably 2 to 3 minutes. And, even though it was early in the morning, typically there's still some traffic and there's still some noises from birds or whatever, because there was some light outside. It wasn't completely dark or anything. And there was nothing. It was like one of those complete silent situations. So that was really odd. And about 2 or 3 minutes later, everything went back to normal. Cars went by and you could hear the birds and everything else. So that was a little weird in itself. They had a little bit of a twist with it also.
And you said Rocky didn't react to it.
No, the animals, we have 2 cats and a dog. And none of them seemed to react any which way. There, I think one of the dog was for sure. And I think our little cat where he's not around here at all, but
No.
he didn't react either. And typically he'll react, both of them will react to something, and they didn't. But boy, I surely did. And it was a strange thing. And even to this day, I kind of think that this boom was some kind of a weird signature. I don't really know why I say that, but it was very disturbing to me because I don't know what it was. Maybe what I thought, maybe Rainbow got into a car accident. I don't know what it was, but it kind of, I'm kind of anxious about it to hear something like that again. And I'm sure there's other people that have heard the same noise that has that same feeling, that it kind of gets in you a little bit and it's hard to get out of you.
No, I heard it. I heard it when Loki first got in contact with me when I was in the shower. But when the boom happened, I assumed, like Michael, there was a huge accident outside on the road, and so I was waiting to hear if there were people, all kinds of stuff, and there wasn't anything. So I think that it's because the veil has thinned so much, and because the paranormal is like just right here, kind of in front of us, I have a sense that it's part of the new norm for people experiencing the paranormal.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if it's like something open, a gate or something opening up.
Maybe, or two timelines converging.
It's something, but whatever's coming together or opening up,
Yeah.
It's making noise. It's making
Sure.
noise that you can actually hear. So again, I don't know what the result was that, but I knew it was a special kind of noise, and it felt odd and a little bit on the dangerous side. I don't know why.
Yeah.
So, okay. So what we're going to do now, we're going to shift gears a little bit again, and we're going to do some haunting ghost type activity. And so we lived in Utah for, I guess, I lived in Utah for quite a while before this, but we lived in Utah about a year and a half.
No, it was over two.
Over 2 years.
Little over two.
Okay, over 2 years. Okay, there you go. And we used to do, we could probably do several, and we have already done some. We did Dugway, and we done some a little bit on Skinwalker Ranch. So we have a lot of information because in those 2 years we did quite a bit of adventures.
We did so much more than we even do now.
Right. Yeah. We did a lot of, we did a lot of really cool adventures. One of them was a restaurant that was, supposedly it was on a haunted. Go ahead.
It was on Ghost Adventures, and Zach and the guys went there to investigate because it was supposedly haunted.
Right.
And the family wanted to kind of, I guess, get well, I think they had enough confirmation, but they wanted even more so from the show.
And the name of it is Leslie's Family Restaurant. It's really a nice, cute little restaurant. It's in Santa Quinn, Utah, which is south of Salt Lake City. It was a cute little place.
It was really cute.
Yeah, it was really cute. So go ahead, tell some of the good stuff.
Well, when I found out that it was in Utah, and the restaurant, I looked it up and it wasn't very far away. Michael and I decided, well, we just head on over there to the restaurant, and plus I heard the food was good. They have, what did we have? We had like big
well, it was like a scone thing.
Yeah, but it was massive.
Yeah,
and they're famous for it. So it was really delicious. It was really good.
Yeah.
So they have good food there. So we thought, oh heck, we'll go eat lunch, and then we'll just try to talk to the family and let them know that we are paranormal investigators, and tell them that we wanted to kind of maybe do an article.
We called first and you had a little conversation.
Yeah, the owner, I can't remember her name at this point, but maybe is it Leslie's? Leslie? I don't know.
No, I don't.
But anyways,
I
talked to one of the owners, and she was such a sweetheart. And so she said, just come on down. She said, that's great. So when we got there and we were eating lunch, we met the granddaughter. Her name was Charlotte, right?
Charlotte. Yeah,
yes.
Charlotte.
And so Charlotte gave us a personal tour of the restaurant, and it was great. And it was so cool because everything that I had seen in the Ghost Adventure show, we got to see. And the really spooky part was there's this basement underground,
right?
And to get to it, you had to open up this wooden door from the floor,
like a cellar door.
But you lift it up,
right?
And then, it was like this narrow, and these steps are really deep, and you have to go down.
Yeah, well, you got to be really careful.
Yeah,
'cause
you had to
could take
be,
a
yeah.
diver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what we did was we went down there with Charlotte, and we heard the history
Right.
of
right.
the of everything that happened. And then Michael will take over with the vortex photography part.
Yeah, so we took a lot of vortex photography throughout the restaurant. We took them in almost every room, and we picked up some really interesting things.
Because there's supposed to be a doorway, remember?
Right. Well, what was interesting about that, there was like a doorway, and we did take
It's a
some
portal.
right. And we took some pictures of the area where supposedly this portal was. We did get some strange thing. Remember
Orbs?
how we got some orbs, and then we got something with these bricks on the side. Remember the bricks kind of moved? They actually moved.
Yeah.
That was really weird.
When Michael took the picture with his digital camera, and it's an older one.
Yeah.
So it's one of those ones where when you push down, it's something really interesting happens. And when it takes a picture, I don't even know how to explain it because I don't know anything about cameras, but it always, whenever you would take pictures of stuff, it didn't do this. But in this location,
I've never seen
it affected the camera, and it affected how the pictures were taken.
Yeah. It was, what was weird about it is the bricks seem to move. They actually moved on
Like
this
a
one,
portal,
on this one photo. It was just a single photo.
crazy.
It wasn't two photos. It was one photo, and it actually like jerked, and you could see it, the movement. So it was very, very unusual.
But only through the camera of the little picture, the little.
Right.
Because Michael took a second picture. He said, "Rainbow, come and look at this."
Right.
And I saw it. I couldn't believe it. And then when you look at it, when he would take a picture, it didn't do it.
No, because there was a bunch of other pictures we took, and we got some really interesting things.
Yeah.
Because I don't believe you mentioned this whole thing was actually built on an Indian burial ground.
That was the sad part. Yeah.
Right. Go ahead.
That was very, very sad. And they didn't even move the graves. So they're, the graves are still down there. And Michael took a photograph of what to me it looked like an Indian chief with his staff, with his spear.
Right.
And to him it looks a little bit more Egyptian,
yeah,
like Anubis.
Right.
But there's the Native Americans, to me, there's always been a connection to the Egyptians, and I've even written about that. So I'm not surprised he saw that. But for me, because I studied with Native Americans for so long, that to me it was very evident, and he was just a beautiful soul. And then there was another young warrior, and he had really long hair, and he was very upset. And so I saw him, and it's just a lot of unrest in the basement. And I think that whenever you go to a location, you have to give resolution to the problem. I don't like going someplace, neither one of us do, where you don't give advice as far as what to do to resolve a problem. And I think for this location, they liked having the spirits and the ghosts there, because up on a higher level, where by the bathrooms, there's a female ghost.
Right. It was a little girl, wasn't it?
Yeah. No, it was a woman who would cry.
Oh,
you
yeah.
could hear her crying.
Yeah, that's right. That's the.
And people had seen her.
Right.
And so I think that if you want spirits to stay, that's fine. But down below in the basement, I suggested that they should actually get a Native American medicine man, and they should get somebody from their religious faith, and they should get an intermediary between the two, have three, and have a ceremony that all three can do, so that they can kind of give peace to the souls of the graves that were desecrated, in a way, because you don't build on top of something that is sacred to another culture. Right. To me, that's the ultimate disrespect.
but that's done all over the world, though. It's done
It
everywhere.
is, but this was on
It's-
purpose. That's
done
it.
everywhere.
It is, but this
It's-
was on purpose. That's
Right.
the difference. This, they knew they were there,
Right.
and but there's always been the battles between the Native Americans in Utah and, you
Well,
know,
the Mormons.
the Mormons
Yeah, the
coming
Mormons.
in. So they were back. It's always been back. Actually, Santa Quinn is kind of, the name is, I
Who's
believe,
the chief? Who's
yeah,
the
his
chief?
son.
Well,
Yes.
it was called something else originally. And then in honor, I guess there was some, the Mormons at the time wanted to make some good or something, or do some changes, because it was basically a massacre that at least the story goes.
Well, back and forth, a massacre.
Right.
They-
It went back
yeah.
and forth. There was Indian battles in this area right here where this cemetery was, or burial ground, we'll call it, which it was a burial ground.
Mhm.
Right around there was a lot of battles, and there was a lot of people that died. And I
Yeah.
think that's where I think in that basement area, there was like, not saying there was tunnels, but there was like 4 areas where these things came and went. I think even Charlotte, or I think she even mentioned that maybe over 100 and some different spirits came and went. And
It was a huge portal.
Yeah.
And plus there's, when you build something over a sacred site, that sacred site is already going to attract spirits, especially if the site itself has the living have actually done ceremony and different things to keep the memory of the dead ones alive. And I think that that's what cemeteries do. I mean, we always go back, we go visit our family members, or we just like to go into cemeteries, and I always like to honor the dead. But I think that when the living keep that alive, you keep that energy going constantly.
Mhm.
And I think when there's unrest, you keep that unrest going too. And if you don't do anything about that, then you're going to constantly have problems. And
Sure.
so that's why I was suggesting to them to kind of have a resolution there.
Sure.
And in the way that I would do it. But everybody's different. How they wanted to deal with it is how they wanted to deal with it. And you have to respect that when you go to locations.
Sure.
But it was very interesting to actually experience different spirits in different rooms, because remember, they actually had some spirit that actually would communicate with them through a flashlight.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. They had actually,
was pretty cool.
it was actually through a name.
Mhm.
There was a name that they gave that one, actually, with the light, the flashlight would go on and off or something.
They'd ask
It was
him
really-
questions. Yeah,
yeah.
it was a male spirit, and they would ask them questions, and he
right.
would yes, if the flashlight went on, and no, if the flashlight went off. They would just ask him different questions, and it was really cool, because at one point that one part of the restaurant was actually a bar. So they, it had been many different things
Right.
at different
Yeah,
times.
yeah.
So
It
that was pretty
there.
cool.
It was around a long time. It was
Yeah,
an
it was.
Old building.
Mhm.
So anyways, that was great. We had good food, good people to talk to. And there
Wonderful.
was some really interesting things, especially down in that lower level. It was kind of at times a little bit on the creepy side, but it was good creepy stuff too. It
Right.
was some good.
And you're going to post the photos, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, they're already out on there.
Okay,
So if
good.
you go to Truth Seeker Forum and you go to a family affair, just put in the search bucket, a family affair. That'll get you 2 articles. One of them is Rainbow's original article that was in Paranormal Underground,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
And so you can read about that. And on that one, there is one of the photos that we talked about. That was the one in, and you can see if you think it looks like an Anubis or it looks like a Indian chief, and it could look like both.
A medicine man, yeah.
A medicine man type. But you will see that a staff or a spear, he's holding that. And then there's also what is that, gonk, or what do they call it in the Egyptian, that staff or
Yeah,
whatever
it's a
that,
staff, yeah.
yeah. So anyways, you'll see that. That's very clear. And there actually is incredible. When I got that particular picture, I was just blown away, because that was incredible.
Yeah.
And it was just a random shot. Of course, the whole place down below is just loaded with stuff. So it wouldn't have took too much, because we did get quite a few other ones that were really interesting also. But anyway, so, okay. So moving along, Rainbow, I know you've you did some research, and I want you to talk a little bit about recent events. This is a recent event one, cattle mutilations in
Yeah.
Oregon.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
let's go for that one.
This year in April, there were 6 cows that were mutilated in the Bend, Pennville area, which is in Crook County. And their udders were removed with precision in the straight, even cuts, as if they were made by a sharp object, which was really interesting. Their reproduction systems were cut out cleanly without disturbing other organs, which I found really interesting. Now, they looked into this and they had found, and I think the whoever was called in, the police, they looked to see if there were any predators that could possibly have done this. And obviously there's no indication, because there's no teeth marks or tearing of any of the skin. And the strangest thing of all was scavenging animals, which would be the coyotes or whatever else, buzzards. They didn't touch the cows.
Right.
They wouldn't touch them, the carcasses.
Right.
And the carcasses were found in a 7-day span of this year. And this was, I think I already said this, but in April. But prior to that, in October of 2019 in Eastern Oregon, in, I believe it was Sylvie's Valley Ranch, and it's a remote area in Eastern Oregon, 5 young purebred bulls mysteriously showed up dead on the ranch during the summer months, and they were drained of blood with body parts precisely removed, just like the cows. And the bulls look like, what one person described the bulls as looking like a deflated plush toy, because the skin actually looked shiny and fine. They were just deflated, and it had an odd smell to it as well. They said, again, no signs of buzzards, coyotes, or other scavengers would come near them. But what they did find is that their tongues and their genitals were surgically cut out, just like with the cows. And each bull was worth about $6,000 each. And breeding bulls, as you may know, are worth up to hundreds of thousands of dollars because of the future calves that they'll bring to the ranch. And this is something that when I work cattle, I work with bulls. And so I know that it takes a long time, and it takes a lot of skill to be able to take care of them. So the bulls, for many ranches, when they lose them, that's a big deal. It's huge. And then 2 years prior to that, near New Princeton, Oregon, cows were found cut up and bloodless, not one drop of blood anywhere. And the same exact situation here with the other ones, where nothing would go near them and eat them. They were just left alone. But they were also stating the fact that, and I know this because when I work cattle, if I found a dead steer or whatever, you'd look around to see what caused the death. And cowboys are really good at, just like Native Americans, looking around the dead animal, the location, and seeing what is disturbed, what footprints there are, seeing what, if any animal left any sign of ripping or tearing, if they killed the calf or the steer or whatever. So they're like investigators. They look into everything. And what they found in these cases is that because some people said, oh, well, the aliens took them and they did this or whatever, and they just lift them up into the air and they drop them on the ground. And that may be the case. But when they were looking at some of these animals, they just couldn't find anything awry around the area where they were located. So what I personally think happens is that they don't have to take them anywhere. They just do it right there. And I think it's a very scary thing for these animals, because they're alive when it's being done. So anyways, that's what's happening here in Oregon. And we have, for many years, had this happening to us. Well, I think everywhere, a lot of places too,
right, a lot of
but
places
in New
the West.
Mexico.
Yeah, New Mexico a lot. And we'll probably do a separate one on cattle mutilations, because we do have some personal friends that actually one personal friend for sure that had the most cattle mutilations on their ranch, their family ranch in New Mexico, and we'll probably spend some time talking about that in the future. So, okay, so let's circle back, and I want to tell you another story that happened to a friend of mine in New Mexico. And my friend is named James, and he was driving his Jeep along the Rio Grande River. There's a street or a couple little streets that kind of parallel the river. And I think it's over in the Corrales area. And so he was just driving along. I'm going to say I think he told me between 30 and 40 miles an hour, somewhere's in there. And suddenly he was just couldn't believe it. All of a sudden the door flies open, his Jeep door on the passenger side. He was by himself. And so the door just flew open, and there jumped in somebody or something, just jumped in. And at first he couldn't believe it, because the vehicle, he was traveling 30 to 40 miles an hour, and who could possibly have caught up with it and jumped in the vehicle? Now, I guess if that person was on a motorcycle or something and came up and, let the motorcycle go or did something, but no, that wasn't the case. This person was, or whatever it was running, actually.
Right.
So it opened the door, jumped in. Now he said, he admitted the door wasn't locked. It was an older Jeep, so it was just one of those little, and if you know the Jeeps, they were pretty thin doors at that time, because they would take the top off, of course, so it was pretty fragile, I guess.
Yeah.
So anyway, so this thing, who again, it was very similar to the description my daughter gave, had kind of a long, let's say, the face was a little different. It was more, he felt it was more of a male face. And it was kind of, it looks like the skin was just laying over a structure like a skeleton type thing. It was very gaunt looking. Mm-hmm. And the hair was, I guess, was darker, very long still though. It was long hair, kind of a big nose, big thin nose. And it didn't look at him. This one jumped on there. And if you had a Jeep, and I think this is on the older Jeeps, I don't know if it's in the newer ones, but I had a Jeep and I remember it. There was like a little handle right above the glove box. I guess it was just a handle to hold on if you're driving kind of crazy, and it's just for the passenger to hold on to it, instead of having the one up on the side. This was right in front, so you could kind of hold on even with two hands. So whatever this was holding on with two hands as it was driving down the road, and it wouldn't turn. So my friend James, he started hollering at it and told him to get the hell out. Well, he said, get the F out. And he hollered it. It didn't move. It just stayed, looked straight forward. He could see the side of his face. And it had big eyes too, big, strange looking eyes. And it just kept on and kept on. And he seemed like he said it seemed to be 15 minutes, but after a while, he told me the story again. He says, I think it was probably only 2 or 3 minutes, but it was so,
it felt like
forever. It was so frightening, because this was not a human. He was absolutely sure it wasn't. And finally, he screamed at the top of his lungs, and he said the right word. This was the right word. He said, get the F out of my truck, my Jeep, now. And I don't know why he said, I don't even know why I said now. But as soon as I used the word now, that thing jumped out and it just flew out, and he slammed on his brakes. He jumped out, and of course
it was gone.
It was gone. Yeah. There was no evidence of it. Nobody around was around to even see it. So it was a pretty incredible story, and he swears by it. I believe him. I've heard of other stories, especially along the Rio Grande River in Albuquerque in the Corrales area, that there's stuff.
Yeah, I'm from New Mexico, so I know.
The river seems to attract that.
Well, it's the one thing about New Mexico, and they call it the land of enchantment. There's a reason for that, because a lot of people come to New Mexico for spiritual awareness, and other people will come there and it'll just spit them out. They just want to get out of New Mexico, and they don't want to ever go back. And so you can kind of go there and have a great experience or not have a great experience, but you have to understand that when you go through a place that is just known, I mean, think about it. We've got Roswell. We have the different reservations where a lot of magic and mayhem happens. And then we have
We got
Los
Dulce.
Alamos, we have
Los Alamos,
Dulce,
Dulce.
we have the Taos Hum, we've got, all kinds of stuff
There's
that's
go
happening.
on and on and on.
So and I haven't mentioned, White Sands and all these other places. So there's a lot of unusual energy that kind of converges in New Mexico. And it either makes you feel, kind of alive and fine, or it just really is a big turnoff for some people.
Right.
So when I hear stories like what Michael just said, it just makes total sense, because being from there, I've had my crazy experiences myself. But I think the key here for him was when he said, "Get out now," he didn't say it in fear. He said it in a total, like, I'm going to kick your butt if you don't get out of my Jeep.
Right.
And
right.
you really have to stand your ground. So he stood his ground.
Right. He was very authoritative. He basically pushed him out with his mind. And he said, now. It wasn't, next week, this week, this is now. I want you out now. And that usually seems to do with some of these entities.
Well, I think what people don't understand is that if you ask something to leave in fear, they know.
Right.
If you get out of here, and you're all scared and you're like ready to cry and you're frantic, they know they got you, because they know they're in charge, they're in control, and you're not. But I think if people can understand, if you just like turn around, stand your ground, and just say, look, I am not going to let you do this to me anymore, and you're out, and I'm not leaving, you are, and you mean it, and you let them know you're going to do whatever you got to do to get them out.
Right.
They're not going to want to fight. Most of the time they don't. There's some cases where they'll stay until, you just finally have to really push them out. But I found that when I've helped people in certain circumstances, that all it took was them even thinking of calling me and asking for me to come over to get this thing to go out, because they know I don't think time exists in the paranormal like it does for us. It's the past, the present, and the future all combined together, because it's really a timeless place.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if people just understand that if you ask anything to leave and you're firm in your belief that it's got to go, it's going to go.
Right. Okay, so we're going to end this on one more recent story. I think it's a really exciting story, and I'm going to kind of set it up for Rainbow, and then we'll let her take it on. So about a couple of weeks ago, we were visiting a couple of friends in the beautiful Columbian River Gorge. It's an incredible place. A lot of stuff happening there too. And we really enjoy going over that way for many, many reasons. We found a couple of really good friends there. So I'm sure we're going to get to go over in that area more. Even before we found the friends, we would go over there quite a bit and see some really cool stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Too. So anyway, after we were done visiting, we were on the way home, and Rainbow had we had a little opportunity to celebrate. So we stopped, as somebody recommended, one of our friends recommended we stop at this I guess it's a historical hotel and restaurant.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so we did, and it's, I believe, what is it called again, Rainbow? It's the Columbian Gorge, historical hotel and restaurant, and I think there's a spa in there too, possibly.
A lot of movie stars had gone through there.
Right.
They have Valentino, I think, was one of them.
Right. Yeah. They have some beautiful. It's old. It's very cool inside.
Very haunted.
It's very haunted.
Yeah.
We found out firsthand, but I'll let Rainbow tell you that part. But we had a lovely dinner there. Highly recommend it.
Oh, so good.
And the wait staff, I think, is maybe a little strange, from a standpoint.
Oh, I thought we had the best waiter.
Yes.
He was exceptional.
Right.
And he was totally into the paranormal, just kind of like us. And I'm going to actually add to, if you like a Manhattan, I love Manhattans. I had the best Manhattan there.
There you go. Okay. A little bit of a deal there. Okay. So Rainbow,
all right,
let's go ahead. I set it up. We had our dinner. It was wonderful dinner. And our waiter's name is Thomas. If you ever go there, ask for Thomas. And he was wonderful too. And he told us some of the historical stuff about the ghosts and everything else. So with that said, Rainbow, we're done with dinner. I'm looking at the check or whatever. Rainbow goes to the bathroom. Here you go, Rainbow. You're up.
Okay. So I went to the bathroom, and, it's during the day, so you don't really think much about a haunting during the day. And so there was this amazing dining room, Where we were actually seated was out on like
It was a, yeah,
an indoor,
overlooking the river. It's
like, yeah,
beautiful.
a
Yeah,
room that
right.
was maybe an outdoor porch at one time, but now
Right.
it's
Yeah.
enclosed.
Right.
So I got up and I'm looking around, and it's just so pretty, and it feels old. It's just one of those places where you just know when you're there, you just kind of feel the age of it. So I went to the ladies' room, then I came back, and as I was going through the dining room, I saw a man, a tall waiter, who was probably about 6'1", and he had his hands in front of him, and he had a white shirt on and dark pants, and he had the like an apron on in the front. And I noticed that when I looked at him, that it was, what was really strange about it was that he was grainy. And I'm thinking, is my eyesight gone? You know, what is wrong? But I noticed that I could see everything else fine. And so when I looked at him, he was looking right at me, and he had a dark beard and he had black hair. But I noticed that his eyes were kind of dark holes. There weren't eyes. And but he would, I didn't get a bad feeling from him at all. I just got a feeling that he was someone very professional standing there, and he wanted to get my attention. And he was a full body apparition. It wasn't like a see-through ghost or spirit. He literally was just all there. And I went like this, and I went back like that, and he's gone. And I'm like standing there, and I'm like, Michael, Michael. And I'm trying to figure out, if, did I imagine it? Did they have someone else working there? But there's no person that could have moved that fast, because the door that he was standing in front of opened towards him. So he would have had to have turned
Right.
around, opened the door, and walked
Right.
through. And I don't think he was going to go fast if he was going to do it. I mean, why would he didn't need to.
This is a split. This is kind of almost
This
a
is
split
this is
second.
me going like this.
Right.
He's
Right.
gone.
Right.
And so, I told Michael, I said, I saw this full body apparition, and, and that's the beginning now for us, because we're going to go back, and we're kind of hoping that we can kind of get some good photographs, maybe videotape it if we get a new camera. Maybe that's something that we're thinking of doing, is taking you guys along with us when we go do some of our investigations. But that was really cool, unexpected, and I think those are the best kind of experiences, when you least expect it.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And I think, one of the things we hooked up with Thomas again, and we asked him about it, and he just kind of smiled. Well, you could see he was smiling, because don't forget, we all had masks on, but you could see his eyes, and it's like,
It happens all the time.
he said it happens all the time, and he didn't challenge it or didn't say anything. He just said, "Oh,
He said he
okay."
wasn't surprised.
He wasn't surprised, right?
Yeah.
It was like, okay, wow.
Yeah.
Because he had some other, him and other waiters had experiences, and I think if his girlfriend or something there had some. There was quite a few experiences.
I think a lot of people who go there have
Yeah,
experiences.
so it's really a hot spot that I had never heard of until actually one of our friends' son, I think, did he work there?
Yeah.
He worked there, and he picked up on all kinds of stuff, and he heard all kinds of crazy stories. And this is still going. This isn't like something that was an old place that's closed down. This is still alive, and they're moving around in that area there. So, if you're in the gorge area, the Columbian Gorge area, and you're into ghosts,
and it's so
or hauntings,
pretty.
it's such a beautiful
God.
place.
Yeah.
Go to restaurant. It's a pretty classy restaurant, so it's not cheap. So be prepared for that. But anyways, it's definitely worth it if you're into that, because you can walk around. I think you can walk around freely. Look, they have some gardens and stuff also outside, and it's right on the river, so it's pretty incredible.
That's beautiful.
So okay, Rainbow, our first special Halloween special. How wonderful.
Yes.
Well, we hope you enjoyed, and
you have a fantastic Halloween.
You have a fantastic Halloween, and don't forget dimensionalwalking@gmail.com. You have any questions, any kind of conversation you want to have, of course, you can leave us comments right on the video, and you can also truthseekerforum.com is our website. Yep. And what else? Did I miss anything? Subscribe, please subscribe. Like us if you like us.
Yeah.
What else?
And I just wanted to add, if you have any problems, or you have any concerns, or you need some help, Michael and I are here to help. We want to make sure that everybody knows that there's somebody who understands and has gone through it, and if we haven't gone through it, we'll get you in contact with somebody who has. So if you have a problem or a need, we're here for you.
Okay. So anyways, that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank
Appreciate it.
you and happy Halloween.